What's up, internet world? We are the We're Trying guys. No, is it
Nope,
We're
don't.
Trying?
Let's just say
What?
we're trying.
Man, can't
Since
even get the
since
open
since we
right.
just well, I'm just saying since we're just starting out, I don't need other people with trying and guys in their name to be coming after us.
Oh yeah,
We can just say we trying for now. Are
we
we
trying.
trying, y'all? I
We
don't want to
trying,
put
y'all.
guys in there yet, but
We trying.
yeah,
Good call.
um,
Good call.
yeah. So you may have recognized us from our News 19 Nerds days, and
Yeah.
while we are still there, we're also doing our own channel, trying to do more content for y'all on a more consistent basis. Since we do not work at the same station anymore, but we're trying to make it work. You guys have already been watching our what we got there? We got a Mission Impossible reaction, we got a Thor
Thor,
reaction,
Gray Man.
Gray Man reaction, and now we're
Mhm.
coming to you with the review
Our
of
first in a long series. First in a long series of reviews.
sure of Halo.
Because this is the golden age of television, of nerd television.
I was just gonna say golden age of television.
Nah, nerd television.
Do you count Halo as part of the golden age of nerd television?
Yeah,
Interesting.
because like when you think about nerd television, think about it. We have multiple Star Trek, Star Wars shows. We
Hmm.
have Marvel has their own TV empire. You've
Hmm.
got Netflix with their shows. Now Paramount is jumping into the mix with a new Halo show.
Hmm.
Um, Apple Plus with Foundation. Who am I missing? Who am I missing? HBO
So
Max.
when you say
HBO
golden
Max.
age, you don't necessarily mean you're just saying just because there's such a quantity of them.
It's a quantity and it's a quality. Like everybody's doing their own thing, trying to capitalize and build their own franchise.
Hmm.
And for better or for worse, it's Halo's not a bad show. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a show, the style, the way it's been done, it may be a little dated. I think
Hmm.
there's some good things that they have done, and I think there's some very poor writing choices. But I think that comes with budgets, who's in charge, directing, and again, it's Paramount Plus. They're a fledgling uh, streaming service, so you have a
That's
mix
weird
of
to say that they're fledgling. I get what you're saying, but it's so weird to call them fledgling when you think of it is Paramount. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
yeah. I mean,
Paramount and by extension CBS, I guess.
but even if you think about the fact that it's CBS, they're still a fledgling streaming service because to be a streaming service, you have to prepare yourself for not having commercials.
Hmm.
And that writing is totally different if you wrote for a show that
Sure.
has commercial breaks. We know that the spec scripts for 30-minute shows to hour-long shows are totally different, especially now that we're in this age of streaming. These shows are written differently. Your story beats are different.
Hmm. Um, so yeah, we got the first season of Halo. It just wrapped up
Hmm.
maybe a week or so ago. Gave people time to watch it, and
Yep.
just I guess we can start with the non spoilers, right? Non spoilers. What are your thoughts of Halo?
For me, I'm a 3 out of 5. The show itself, Pablo Schreiber, I will give him a 4.5 out of 5 stars as the actor and the character who's tasked with display being Master Chief. I think the show itself is just okay, but I think Pablo Schreiber elevates the show beyond what it really is.
Sure.
We've talked about characters in shows or actors in shows who elevate a show, like the show is just or the movie's just perfect example without remorse. Uh, Michael B. Jordan. Michael B. Jordan elevates with Jodie Turner Smith, elevate that movie beyond where it should have been. That's
Okay.
a bare bones, run of the mill, action revenge movie. But he does such a good job. He elevates that movie higher. Pablo Schreiber elevates Halo beyond what it is.
I think it was interesting, and this isn't a spoiler because they talked about this before, that this is definitely it is Halo that you kind of remember, but it's not. It doesn't follow the games. It's its own universe,
Mm-hmm.
the Silver universe or Silver timeline or something they call it, Silver
Mm-hmm.
something. Um, and I think that was probably wise on their part because it kind of lets them play in the universe and kind of come up with their own storylines and not be beholden to oh, this happens in Halo Reach, but this happens in Halo 1. They can
Mhm.
kind of mess with timelines and stuff. And I think the show is better for that. When it first started, I probably would have said no, I wanted to follow what's in Halo, but we kind of already got that in the games. I don't necessarily need it in a TV show so they can kind of approach things differently, I think.
I think one of the things that Halo, the makers of Halo, Amblin Entertainment, I believe that's the name of Spielberg's company, who's in
Mhm.
charge of producing the show, they did what the people are still upset about. Wanted the expanded universe adapted into Star Wars. They wanted people. They wanted them to follow that whole timeline. I understand that. I agree that it seems like a slap in the face to fans to not be able to um, that all these things that you read that you these things that you came to love are not going to be on screen. But I
Mhm.
think it was smart because it allows you to pick and choose what you can do and what you can't do, your limitations. Because what like with Star Wars, and I'm gonna make a lot of comparisons to Star Wars because they had to do two things very similar. They had to take a beloved character who was in different forms of media and build a show around them. And they had to adapt a world with that character being the focal point of that world. Um, Star Wars had to do that with Boba Fett. Paramount has had to do in the Halo universe with Halo and Master Chief. There's some very big similarities between, in my opinion, in these two shows. Here's a character that people fervently love. I mean, there's
Mhm.
literal game, a universe is built around Master Chief. Same thing with Boba Fett. People love Boba Fett. They've been in love with this character for so long, and then they finally get a show, and there's very mixed reactions to how those shows were executed.
Sure. Yeah. You almost wonder if they, not whether or not they succeeded or not with the Book of Boba Fett, because that's a different review that we could do or whatever. But
They
it's
did
more
not.
like fantastic. But it for me, it's more about, did they take advantage of the opportunities they had in front of them in terms of trying to tell a different story without being beholden to whatever lore there was for Boba Fett.
Correct. And I
Yeah.
think that's what's hard about Halo. That one, it's a video game. So the agency that you have in playing the game and making your decisions is taken away from you. You're now a passenger along on this journey. When before, when you play the games, you are in charge of Master Chief. His decisions are your decisions.
Hmm.
Yes, it's a very linear game, but you are this super soldier, and then as you play the game you're experiencing as this character these things that happen to him, fighting the covenant, learning about his childhood or lack of childhood, the experiments that were done to him, the enemies and the heroes, and that relationship between him and Cortana. You do these things. Now you're watching this character on screen, and it's up to the world building to make you believe that this is happening. And Pablo Schreiber again has to portray Master Chief in a way that makes you say, that makes sense.
Yeah. So non spoilers, would you tell people to watch it or not watch it?
I would tell people to watch it, but I would give them this caveat: it's not groundbreaking. There's nothing that they do that you haven't seen before in other movies or adaptations. I mean, you take Bloodshot with Vin Diesel, Solo with Mario Van Peebles,
Hmm.
the mindless super soldier. We've seen this before. Pablo Schreiber does elevate the character to something we haven't seen before. I like him, but if you're going into this thinking I'm going to get whatever is on that Xbox game, do not do that. You're going to be upset. Now, don't
Sure.
get me wrong. There's a lot that I have problems with this show, but if you can suspend and say, you know what, I just need something to turn my brain off, and I want to watch it. I want to see spaceships and aliens. This is not bad.
This is not bad. I would agree with that. Yeah, I'm excited to see where season 2 goes. For me, it was definitely a. I think you enjoyed the show pretty much from the beginning, or you enjoyed it more than I did from the beginning. By the end of the show, I was like, okay, I can kind of see what they're doing. It's not going to be the video game. That's fine. And that last episode really got me hooked for whatever season 2 is going to be.
Let me ask you this,
Uh huh.
because you watched it week by week.
Hmm.
Was that a do you think that was a disadvantage? Do you think that they should have dropped like maybe 2 or 3 episodes to let you binge it, and then that way could have built? Because for me, remember, I watched it, maybe there were already 3 episodes out, so I
Hmm.
watched them all together. And
Um, oh, man, tired, yawning. No, I think it was fine the way I watched it. For me, I think Paramount did a good job in terms of making this a show that felt like a weekly show. I think because we've been spoiled by Netflix and doing that binge model, I don't necessarily know. Some shows work in a binge format in terms of how they're cut and edited, and some shows,
yep.
even though they drop them that way, it may not feel right because it still feels like it's episode and it's not necessarily you need to watch them back to back. I felt like this show did a good job of being piecemeal. Here's an episode you get a week. You can kind of talk about. You can talk about your
Mhm.
friends, talk about whatever theories you have, and I think that works for Halo and Paramount in this case.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So that was non-spoiler. Take this opportunity. We're a new channel. We try. You know,
Hmm.
we are the struggle channel of nerd news. So come to us if you want to know what's going on in the world, in the world of the nerds. We will do our best. That's why we try. You
Here's
can
the
find us
funny
on
part about
Instagram.
that. So,
What?
well, you know you continue to freeze because you're not hardwired, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So as you said, you talked about how we struggling and then you froze. It just worked out perfectly. But anyway,
that's good.
it's fine.
That's good.
Yeah.
Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. I'm working on a Facebook page for us.
I
Yeah,
don't know why it's hard to do a Facebook page.
because I have been busy,
You ain't been
and I
busy.
keep and I keep forgetting.
Fair
But
enough.
so let's get to non-spoilers. Let's talk about
No,
so
two spoilers.
two spoilers. So
There
let's
we
let's
go.
start with the beginning of the show.
We're gonna change up. Now we're in spoiler territory, so we're going different color.
It actually looks like the planet. Uh, what was the name of that planet?
The first one,
Yeah,
Madrigal,
yeah, Madrigal, the one that everybody's fighting over. That's a dirt ball.
the one
You
with
mean
the
if
horrible characters that
you mean fake
I love.
Tatooine?
Yeah, but like the one that I love, Bokeem Woodbine. Man, he did not
That
need to
makes
be
one
in
of
this
us.
show.
That makes
I,
one
I
of us.
mean, I don't care about him in this show. I like Bokeem Woodbine overall and stuff he does. His character was unnecessary.
Because that whole storyline was unnecessary.
Yeah, him and
Quan.
so Quan He,
Yep.
yeah, Quan Ha. I'm not familiar. I think her real name is Yeren Ha. I'm looking at it. I think that's how you pronounce. I don't know if that's how you pronounce her or not. I don't know what else she's been in. What else do you know? Anything else she's been in?
Nope.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to be mean, and I'm not gonna say I don't care, but to me, she did nothing. There were a lot of beats on this show that it seemed like someone watched the Mandalorian,
Hmm.
and there are a lot of similarities, and I'm like, man, you guys are about to get sued, and I'm glad you went a different way because I could see the lawyers just sharpening their blades
Hmm.
because those first 2 episodes.
Well, it's interesting because I like the idea of what Karen Ha, or sorry, Quan Ha was in terms of it's almost like okay, this maybe this is going to be the audience's way in to the Spartans and Master Chief. She's kind of like
Mhm.
your everyday one of the mill person, right? She's just a regular person and like, oh, these people are incredible. Um, but then her storyline and the B plot kind of gets more and more. I just didn't care about her lineage or her father's
Yeah.
history. And that one episode, I mean, we're kind of jumping all around, but that one episode that just focused on them, that
Well,
was,
before you get there,
yeah.
let's go back because you talked about her lineage. That's one of the things I think in this episode, for episode 1, does not get established that her father is in charge of running a planet. They are like they don't do a good job of setting up that these people on Madrigal are basically dissidents.
Hmm.
They are it really is. They tried, but they didn't do
So, I'll be in a
a good
second.
job of that. So
Yeah.
it is the UNSC, right?
UNSC.
You,
Yeah.
the UNSC is this huge monolithic military force that does not have the will of the people at its heart. And they tried to set that up a little bit And to me, they did not do a good job with that. The Spartans come in. Now, this is what I will say. They made the Spartans, when they came, reminded me of this.
Hmm.
And I know I'm going to go on record as saying is I did not like the Book of Boba Fett. I thought there were some things that were decent about it, but I thought overall, compared to the Mandalorian, it was not a good show and not and probably one of the Star Wars worst shows.
Okay.
Um, the thing that I had problem with that Book of Boba Fett did not do right, that Halo did, is Pablo Schreiber when he shows up on screen,
Hmm.
he embodied Boba Fett showed up on screen, he was always taking off his helmet, telling people, "I am Boba Fett," and it's like, dude, you've been a bounty hunter for how many years? You should strike terror in the hearts of people.
Right.
Master Chief and the Spartans scared people, like people who were on the like when the Spartans showed up and they were fighting the Covenant, they were just as scared as the Spartans as they were the Covenant,
Hmm.
and that to me spoke mountains.
Yeah, I think a big thing about the way they were introduced was there was like this presence and this atmosphere of kind of like a mystique. You didn't know what who they were because
Mhm.
the first episode really kind of talks about before people even knew about the covenant, it was just kind of civil war between that almost I don't know if I'll call them a separatist planet, but just an outlying planet and the
Mhm.
UNSC. And
Yep.
this war had been going on for whoever knows how long in regards to this show. But there was like talk about, oh, you wouldn't be able to last, 10 minutes against a Spartan because they take
Mhm.
out whoever. So they kind of had like these myths and almost like these fairy tales about these people who, if you saw them, you were probably dead.
Yeah.
Nobody lived to tell the tale. I think Paramount Plus and I don't know who wrote this show. I know it
I
was
can tell you.
produced by Spielberg, but I think they did a good job of building up the lore of the Spartan army better than Book of Boba Fett did with Boba Fett for sure.
So the creators of this show are Stephen Kane and Kyle Killen.
Okay.
Um, you will find that they worked on uh, they are writers who are known for Mind Games from 2014, some of the Fear Street stuff, and The Beaver.
Hmm.
Um, that was and Awake, which I actually liked. Awake. I thought Awake was a very original idea. No, not Awake. Yeah, Awake. I thought that was a very original idea on NBC, where Jason Isaac falls asleep, and every time he wakes up, he's in a different timeline.
Okay.
So
I never saw it, but I always saw the commercial and I was kind
I
of
thought
curious
that
about
was a very good show. I thought it should have
you
been
and no
more.
one else.
Yep,
Clearly, because they did not keep it going.
did not.
Yeah.
And now Stephen Kane is a writer from a producer from American Dad, The Last Ship, The Closer, a lot of TV stuff but nothing that's been prestige TV, I would say.
Okay.
So, which is funny about that is because if you go back and look at who was originally supposed to do this, guess whose names were attached to this? Three very big names.
I don't know the Russos.
Nope. So
Oh,
here from IMDb, Neil Blomkamp, a screenplay from was set to direct a screenplay from Alex Garland and with Peter Jackson supervising producer.
okay.
Now the problem is they ran into budget concerns and they scrapped everything. And so that's how you ended up with the show that we have now. So I'm just imagining what the three of those geniuses could have come up with.
Sure.
And if you don't know those names, go look them up. Neil Blomkamp, District 9. For me, Elysium.
Chappie. I am Chappie.
Nope, I will not give you
I
Chappie.
am
No,
Chappie.
ooh, I hated Chappie. But
Elysium.
Elysium, I loved because
Hmm.
Elysium is where we're going. That's where the future is.
Hmm.
Um, Alex Garland, um, uh, Alicia Vikander. What was the with Oscar Isaac and Dom?
Deus Machina.
Yes, Deus Machina. Um, no, Ex Machina. Ex
Ex
Machina.
Machina. I'm
Ex
thinking of the
Machina.
yeah, Ex
Yeah,
Machina. There we go.
and then Peter Jackson. I mean, come on, Hobbits.
Hobbits. She's done more than Hobbits, but sure, we get what you're saying.
Hobbits, sir. The
All right,
Hobbitses.
the
But I mean,
Hobbitses.
think about what they could have created,
Hmm.
not with an unlimited budget, but those are three big names. I
Sure.
mean, amongst themselves, they're very big, so they know how to craft the story. And I think that's part of the problem that you have people who are normally working on maybe a lower budget, more constraints,
Hmm.
didn't know how to finesse and do certain things because they would have a great. So remember when they wanted to kill Quan, the UNSC was like, "Is she going to do this video?" And they
Hmm.
was like, "Nah." And they was like, "Two to the back of the head. Come on, Master Chief." And they
Hmm.
was like, "Hey, Master Chief, what you doing? Hey, man, in between meals, can you cap this teenager that you just rescued back there?" And it
Yeah.
was one of those things where you were like, "Dag, you guys are ruthless." Like to me, I love that part of it.
Sure. Um,
That to me, they did when it came in her time storyline with your Bokeem. Do you didn't miss her in the last episode?
oh yeah, yeah. I didn't care.
You like they didn't need to be there.
Yeah, I wasn't worried about that at all. I'm curious if there's going to be some type of through line that somehow reconnects that storyline back with Master Chief. That'd be cool in season two, and maybe like, oh man, they had this crazy plan. Like right now, I don't see what the plan is, but
I
if they
know
do,
we
that'd
know
be
what the
cool.
plan is.
I don't.
They got to go back to Madrigal.
Mm,
They got to
okay.
go back. For some reason, Madrigal is tied into all of this.
So we talked about Quan, and we talked about some of the weaker characters. Is there anybody that you liked and you're like, oh yeah, this person was awesome?
So I really enjoyed Kate Kennedy, who plays Kai. Um, she plays the Spartan who
Who paints her hair with
removed
blood?
yes, who removes
Yes.
her pain inhibitor,
Hmm.
and I think there are some weak moments with her as far as like with but I really enjoyed watching her develop. I really enjoyed watching her develop. I think Natasha McElhone, I hope I'm saying that name right, but the woman who plays Dr. Halsey, who was originally supposed to play also voice Cortana, but they weren't able to do that. So then they were able to get the woman who actually voiced Katana
Yeah, that
to
was a good call.
Jen Taylor. I those two women, my gosh, stepped it up. The woman who plays Kai, she's a voiceover actor from video games, and she's done a couple of acting roles, but her work has been mostly voicing video game characters, and I think her portrayal was a very good portrayal for this show.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it was interesting to have other Spartans besides just John.
Silver Team.
Having get to see some of their personality and just kind of get some more backstory with them because for the most part you're kind of just stuck with John through the lore. Now, if you're playing like ODST or Reach, you're going to see more Spartans and kind of deal with more of those
Mhm.
as well. But it was just interesting to see in this particular timeline, seeing like the kind of the camaraderie of the team is kind of before the two of them got their like emotion chip taken out. It definitely was a squad of like if they were told to kill each other, they would.
Oh, they did. They were told to get like
True, yeah, yeah, you saw that they would, and it's not like it's no hard feelings
no.
because they,
That's permission.
yeah, and like I guess in the last episode, Kai says, "Would you guys have killed me?" We're like, "Yeah, it's the mission," and she's like, "Oh," she wasn't really upset. She's like, "I get it."
She's like, yeah, and so you realize how you understand the stakes of the war.
Hmm.
I think they could have made them a little bit more pronounced that we are fighting for our survival as a species. I think
Sure.
that was not done very well. I don't think they set that up that we as humans and as spacefaring race, we're now coming into contact with other aliens, and our first contact did not go well.
Right.
Um, we got our asses kicked, and so
Speaking of that, well, go ahead and then I'll ask you a question.
well, I just think that they should have set that up a little bit more. That the UNSC has to be ruthless for this very reason. We're fighting for our survival in this vast universe,
Hmm.
and we're we're not up to the level of these other races.
For sure. we're talking about aliens there in the Covenant.
And
What you? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
excuses for them. I'm just saying that I think that they should have done a better job of building that up and showing us, hey, we're the little brother of species to everything else out there. So the fact that the UNSC is ruthless to do these things, there's a reason behind it. Not that they're just, dumb murder killbots.
Right. Um, we are talking about the aliens, talking about the Covenant. What do you think of the look of the aliens?
I thought they did a good job. I thought the acolytes were done pretty well. Um, I thought when they were on screen, I thought they were pretty. I thought they were done pretty well. Um, when you see the animations from some of the aliens, some of their weaponry, their ships, I thought they got that pretty good.
Yeah, I would agree with that. For me, it was interesting. Like seeing them in motion, I think it looked good. It was only when they kind of paused and like did like these long still frames with some of the aliens, that's
Mhm.
when we kind of got into. And granted, they are aliens, but it still had an uncanny valley look to it, and it definitely felt like a TV budget for me. But when stuff was moving, like maybe episode 1 and episode 8, when those kind of like they kind of spent, it seems like they spent the most money on those action scenes there. That looked
Yes.
good overall, I thought.
Yeah. One of the things that I think that they did a good job was bringing in this new character, Maquis. I thought that was interesting. At first, I wasn't too sure where they were going with her,
Hmm.
but she grew on me.
Yeah.
The idea of this child being indoctrinated by aliens to hate your own race.
Hmm.
I mean, I saw this once you realize you see the simulators between her and who Master Chief is, and this bond that they shared. I think I actually grew to like her. At first, I was like, "Where are we going with this?" You space traitor. But I really did enjoy her character. Now, I will say that I was upset once again. Television decides that we needed to kill a female character to motivate the male character. I think
Hmm.
that's. I would like to see her come back. Um,
It's going to be. Sorry, go ahead. I'm going to cut you off. Go
no,
ahead.
I'm good.
No, I was going to say it's going to be interesting to see one whether or not she comes back, or if Chief is even motivated by it, because it happened near the end of the last episode. So by the time it happened, Master Chief had kind of already given his body over to Cortana. So it'll be interesting to see if he truly is motivated by this, or they kind of just drop it and it's just him and Cortana now.
Well, I think that's one of the things that I thought was interesting was that relationship between the chief and Maquis and the chief and Cortana. The strongest relationships he has is with these three women, whether it's Dr. Halsey, whether it's Cortana, or whether it's Maquis, and the manipulation going on between all three of them.
Sure.
Only one of them has his best interests at heart. And then as Maquis comes around, she realizes, oh, I still care for him, even though because she didn't have to hit the artifact again.
Hmm.
If you go back and look, she didn't have to do that. She tried to help him in her own little way, and I thought that was very telling. Um, again, I think as much as I get upset about this show, I will give them credit for writing some very, in my opinion, these women they were done really well.
Um, what do we think about Master Chief fucking?
Oh, we definitely not on our old channel.
That's right. I'm just saying we keeping it real here. Master Chief and Maquis, they made love.
Oh,
I,
you went from fucking to making love now, huh?
I mean, I'm just
That's
saying they did something. They made the beast with two backs, whatever you want to call it.
Master Chief
Uh,
smashing them cheeks.
yeah. I think, and I'm not on social media as much as you. Did the world lose their mind when that happened? I felt like
I
some
mean,
people were kind of like, "Oh, this is crazy."
it
Eh,
was a lot of people were like, Master Chief got what Master Chief, and I think it's interesting that it's something that caught people's attention because once again, here's a character who you have seen do so many different things
mhm,
except have sex, and you're bothered by the sex. Like
mm,
this man is curb stomped millions of aliens.
sure.
It almost reminded me too. Remember the talk behind uh, who was the little murder girl from Game of Thrones? Arya.
Aria.
Remember when Arya in the last season had sex,
Hmm.
and everybody was like clutching their pearls, and you're like, this girl has been slaughtering people
Hmm.
this entire show, and y'all are upset because she got something before she was about to die. Like it was just that we still have this weird relationship with sex, but we're okay with the violence and the murder repeated.
And by us you mean Americans.
I'm just talking in general.
Well, I would say like East American culture is
Well,
more like
I,
I would say American culture is more okay with violence than it is with sex.
I would say I don't know of any other cultures to compare that to because I only live here. So
I mean, you can look in like if you like look at European movies and other movies,
I
sex is
mean,
definitely more featured in those movies.
I agree with you. I'm just saying, like, I can't, I'm not an expert on that. I am an expert on going online and being like, oh, wow, you guys are really losing your mind over Master Chief having an intimate adult relationship
And
versus,
I think the perfect word you bring up is intimate, right? I think because it's an intimate relationship and intimacy can mean being vulnerable. I wonder if people are just they don't like the idea of their Master Chief being vulnerable because they're like, nah, Master Chief, he just gets the job done. He's
yeah.
never at a loss for words. He knows the perfect time to do everything perfectly. And here's a moment where he's vulnerable and he's learning about himself, and it's kind of different for people for sure.
I really, it's one of those things where I just thought that was very interesting that these are two characters who were just dabbled in murder, slaughtering people left and right. And they're upset about the sex scene. And it's like, really? I
Hmm.
need y'all to calm down. Master Chief has eliminated entire. I mean, put about. I will say that I thought was that scene that they used in the trailer as the Spartans jump out of their drop ship, so to speak. That reminded me of Halo 5, uh,
Okay.
with Spartan Locke and his team jump out. Uh, I still think it's one of the best openings in Halo 5. Uh, don't at me, because I don't
Oh, they
care.
will.
I
They
mean, I'm
will.
just saying, like, I just as far as openings, I think that was one of the better Halo openings. I'm not talking about the game. I just think that opening
Right.
was
Too bad
well.
it doesn't carry throughout the game.
Yeah, but no, I have a lot of problems with this show, but I like it in spite of the problems because of what they did right.
Sure.
And again, I felt like, and I not to bash Book of Boba Fett, this is how the Spartans felt to me when Paz Vizsla showed up, and
Side note: have you seen the unmasked Paz Vizsla
yeah,
figure?
it's John Favreau.
Yeah, that's cute.
Yeah,
That's
um,
nice.
when Paz shows up and when these other Mandalorians show up, there's this reverence for them,
Hmm.
and I got that for the Spartans, and that's what I felt was missing in Book of Boba Fett. This reverence that Boba Fett, here he is trying to do something different than what he always has done, and it just seemed to not that take didn't happen. And I hear John Favreau talking about like he was inspired by The Godfather, all this stuff, and I'm like, I don't remember in The Godfather Corleone taking this many L's.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm not remembering the movie right, but I just don't remember him taking that many L's. And I didn't like the fact that every time I turned around, he's taking his helmet off and he's telling people I'm Boba Fett. Like to me, that green armor should have signified something. Where at least, and it just seemed like he was not smart, considering he wasn't like he's supposed to be the world's most feared bounty hunter. And when the
Sure.
cat, and do you remember that scene in Book of Boba Fett when Cad Bane shows up and people are like, "Oh, that's Cad Bane." Where
Hmm.
was that for Boba Fett? Whereas in this show, every time Master Chief showed up, like when he showed up on that space rock, and people were like, they knew
Hmm.
what he was as soon as he walked out there, and like people tried to put a forklift in front of him. He was like, "Hold on," and he just moved it out of the way. The one thing they showed the importance of what the Spartans were to the UNSC.
you talked about Boba Fett again and talking about him taking off his mask. I mean, a big issue for a lot of people. Well, I mean, after you get past that first episode, was Master Chief. Because I think leading up to the show, people were wondering, is he going to take the mask off, and when is he going to take the mask off?
When is the helmet coming off? Yep.
I think some people thought, oh, it'll be like Mandalorian, and maybe it'll happen near the end of the first season. They did it in episode 1.
Yep.
And he took it off all the time, and I think it worked.
I think he did too. I think again, it's because you have so many similarities because of these warriors having armor, helmets. There's going to be comparisons.
Yeah.
But I will say this: they did a good job of building the world to the point where taking the helmet off was not such a big deal. Now they weren't as good as building a world as Expanse did on Amazon, or even when it was on Sci-Fi, when it had a smaller budget. But I think they did a good enough job to hold my interest in this world building, that this world could actually exist. My only problem is the set design on Fate Tatooine wasn't done very well. I really didn't like the fact that they used. I want to pull this actor's name up. Give me 1 second. He was in.
Vern Gorman.
Yes, I did not like. Again, he's part of the Quan storyline. I don't like the fact that they got him to play the same character he basically did play in
everything.
Expanse.
I mean, he played the same character in everything. He was also that same character in what's the movie where they drift with the machines?
Pacific Rim.
Yeah, kind of felt like he was like that.
No, he wasn't the same character. No, he was a scientist in that movie. In those movies, remember he was with Charlie Day, and they were like nerdy scientist friends.
I don't know, something about him, and I like him as a character actor, but I think something about him, he kind of has like a smarmy feel to him.
Oh yeah, he does.
And I guess that's just, he knows how to play the part. So
don't get me wrong, I loved him in Expanse. I thought he was a very good. I mean, he was a psycho, but I thought his characters really well. And this in Halo, I didn't think he did a very good job, but I don't think he had a lot to work with. So it's not really on him.
Yeah.
That whole Quan storyline just needed to
go
ahead and write that up and get rid of your boy Bokeem, because he doesn't bring anything.
Okay. So have you rating the show overall? What are you giving it?
I'm still a solid 3 out of 5 Maquis.
Okay. I'd probably give it 3 out of 5 energy swords. I wish we had seen more of the energy sword. Maybe that can come in season 2. Anything else you want to add before we sign off here?
I'm hoping that they get a bigger budget, and I'm hoping that they lean more at calling up some of the people who cut some of these trailers for the Halo games, because even though I know the show is a pale comparison, and it's not the same. If you go back and watch some of the ad campaign for like the Fall of Reach, ODST, they do a lot in 30 seconds to 2 minutes. Sure. Like, find out who some of those writers were, and again, maybe just get them to do commercials for the show. But if you go back and watch, man, some of those live action commercials for it, when I was watching Halo, I would go back and watch on YouTube some of those commercials. Man, when those Spartans, when the one had the bomb and she fell, and then another one took it, the Fall of Reach, I was just like, it reminded me of playing that game. And that's what the show should do. Remind you of playing the game, but also fill out those spaces, that world. Get rid of Quan, get rid of Bokeem, that whole storyline. Focus on Halsey. Focus on Miranda. Like, what is she going through?
She seemed to be done with her mom, which was cool.
Is she though? Because she realized her mom was a clone at the end. Her mom got away.
Yeah, that mom is tricky for sure.
She got mom and daddy issues.
Yeah. Okay, that's it for us. Coming in about 40 minutes here. Good little review.
Our first review.
Yeah, first review. One, like you said, one in the line of many. There will be more for sure.
Our first F word too.
Oh, you'll be dropping more.
Hey,
I
but
wanted to drop one so you can
I
know if you're
wasn't the
comfortable.
first. I wasn't.
Well, I did that on purpose so that you can drop them. So now that you're comfortable in the space, you can drop them on the next videos.
We letting them fly.
There we go. Yeah. So folks, we are on the We Trying channel. You can find us on We Trying Y'all on Instagram, Twitch, Twitter. On YouTube, it's just We Trying. We'll be putting up more videos. Probably since we got this set up now, we could probably be doing at least weekly, I would think, for sure.
Oh, definitely.
As more stuff comes out. But that's it for us. Like, comment, subscribe. You've been seeing the supers going
definitely
on
comment because I'll definitely respond to them. Like, yeah, let's start a conversation. What did you think of Halo? Did you like it? Did you not like it? You thought it was trash? Are you going to watch season 2? Because we know season 2 is going to get greenlit. It's
already greenlit.
Yeah. So is this Paramount's new franchise? Is this something that people are going to come and get Paramount for?
There we go. Leave those comments below on the YouTube channel. We will see you later. Peace.